that detect disease, measure biomarkers, or convert biological discoveries into practical clinical tools. A 2022 study in the Washington and Lee Law Review found that within only 4 years after one of the key cases, investments in diagnostics fell more than $9 billion short of what it otherwise would have been. The cost of lost diagnoses for families is why the Alliance for Aging Research strongly supports PARA. The bill would restore clarity to the eligibility section of the Patent Act so that inventors of medical discoveries can reliably make their way from the lab to doctors and their patients. And I want to note that patent eligibility doesn't guarantee patent approval. It just lets the Patent Office consider an invention. Without patent protection, many of these tests are never developed or they sit on a shelf. One of the clearest examples is in Ariosa Diagnostics versus Sequenom. Sequenom developed a non-invasive prenatal test that could detect fetal abnormalities from a simple maternal blood sample, sparing moms and babies the risks of amniocentesis. It was a genuine scientific breakthrough. Yet the Federal Circuit invalidated the patents. Judge Richard Lynn stated in his concurrence that the invention was exactly the kind of advance the patent system is meant to encourage and protect. But the Mayo decision compelled him to strike it down, and he actually called on Congress to resolve the confusion. A similar situation arose when university researchers developed biopsy tests that could predict brain metastases in melanoma patients. But patents on these methods were denied under the Mayo and Myriad standards, forcing researchers to abandon their efforts. And as a result, many melanoma patients learn their cancer has spread to the brain after the fact when they may only have weeks to live. PARA would largely eliminate those barriers and let those diagnostics be judged under the normal patentability rules. What we stand to lose in the near future is as concerning as what patients have already lost. Researchers are developing detection tests that have the potential to identify several cancers at once through a simple blood draw. These tests look for patterns in DNA and protein markers that can indicate the presence of early-stage cancer cells. Catching these cancers earlier will improve survival rates and reduce the burden of treatment for older adults. The promising work in development for biomarker-based diagnostics in Parkinson's is also critical, as seniors facing Parkinson's often endure years of visiting doctors before receiving a diagnosis. And today, there's no single definitive test. This is exactly the kind of innovation America should be leading. But if diagnostic patents remain unpredictable in the US, investor capital will move elsewhere. Members of the committee, it's encouraging to see bipartisan leadership on this issue. There's shared agreement that something's wrong, and there's shared commitment to fix it. On behalf of the Alliance for Aging Research, older patients, and caregivers across the country, I respectfully urge this committee and Congress to pass PARA before the end of this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Leonard.
Chairman Grassley, who is not here, Mr. Tillis, Ranking Member Durbin, and other members of the committee, my deepest sympathies to all of you who are grieving the loss of Senator Graham. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Deborah Leonard, and I have spent my medical career developing and overseeing clinical genetic testing used to diagnose disease and guide treatment. I want to share with you my experiences with gene patents prior to the Myriad decision. The University of Pennsylvania Health System received 7 gene patent enforcement letters between 1997 and 99, and again in 2002. The enforcements stopped my laboratory from performing 4 of our tests that we had been performing, and another clinical laboratory from performing one of their tests. We obtained a license to perform the other 2 tests, one of which led to increased costs for our patients. The medical consequences of gene patents are many. If testing for a disease is monopolized by one company, that company sets all the rules for access to testing, such as not accepting certain forms of payment or not performing prenatal testing or testing for other purposes. The company can charge any price. The company decides how the test will be performed, which can result in incomplete testing. We lose the innovation in testing methods that happens when many laboratories are performing the test, which often results in tests that are faster and at lower cost. Healthcare systems pay for the added costs and time of shipping specimens for testing. One company obtains all the specimens from across the country, thereby limiting further research on the disease and testing methods. A gene patent holder may allow broader testing, but charge any level of licensing and royalty fees. Please understand that in the current medical practice, we routinely test many genes in a single test or even the entire genome. Therefore, elimination of one or more genes by one or many patent holders makes the test incomplete or requires multiple tests, which increases costs. By contrast, the University of Michigan gave free licenses for their patent on the most common variant that causes cystic fibrosis to any not-for-profit clinical laboratory performing the test for their patients. My point is that a gene patent holder has the legal right to totally control the use of the gene without regard for the impact on patients and medical care. Physicians are increasingly using genetics in healthcare with amazing innovations. We can sequence a sick newborn and parental genomes, identifying the genetic cause for the sickness in the baby in about 25% of the babies. For cancer patients, we can identify the genetic changes or biomarkers causing a patient's cancer to grow, which can allow treatment with genetically targeted therapies that achieve cures and remissions more successfully than standard chemotherapy. I could go on and on about all the incredible advances we've seen in genomic medicine since 2013, but the important point is that all of this success occurred under the current patent eligibility framework, not despite it. We continue to reward true innovation through patents on novel technologies, therapies, and laboratory methods, while ensuring that the building blocks of biology remain available for researchers, clinicians, and patients. Having experienced both worlds, I can say with confidence that the current framework serves patients and drives innovation far better than the one that existed before Mayo and Myriad. I want to be very specific about my concerns with PARA. We have a fundamental disagreement in that the medical community holds that any part of the human genome, any disease biomarker, any pathogen genome should not be patent eligible.